Hey there, so I am working on this tune. It's You or No One. So I'm playing the melody and I'm comping, and I'm also going to talk about how you can solo using these kind of very simple voicings to comp for yourself, basically. So, as usual, my PDFs with tabs and everything is on my Patreon page. So what I'm doing is I'm playing the melody of this tune. Right? And then I'm playing the guide tones. The guide tones are the third and the seventh. I've made a video about that in the past, and if you don't know what guide tones are. So the third and the seventh of the first chord, G minor, is F and B flat. And then the next chord is E to B flat. And then for the F major 7, it's E and A. And I'm playing the guide tones on these set of strings, the A and the fifth and the fourth string. And I'm using my, can I do this? My inner fingers, or whatever you want to call it. So that gives me these outer fingers, enables me to play the melody or some kind of soloing with these two fingers. That's the basic idea. You don't have to stick to that concept dogmatically, but that's the default. And this all comes from, the way I understand it anyways, it comes from players like Lenny Breau. It's like a Canadian tradition, right? Lenny Breau, Ed Bickert, and today we have Lauren Lofsky. They're very much playing in this way, way more sophisticated than I'm gonna show you today, right? This is just kind of a basic introduction to this way of playing. So I'm just gonna play the guide tones for you over a backing track where I have removed the piano. It's on the what's it called, iReal book, and I removed the piano, and I'll just play the guide tones for you. Sounds like this, right? The melody. Okay, so then you combine it. The way I wrote it on the PDF is just the guide tones as whole notes, right? Or half notes. But obviously you want to add some rhythm to it, so it's more like. And I think you noticed that I did something, a couple of times I played something different than the guide tones, because for the major 7 chords you have to be a little bit more careful. If you have a C major 7, for example, the guide tones would be the B, the 7th, and E, the 3rd. And let's say you have the melody note is a C. You get a funny sounding voicing, right? So because of the flat 9 intervals. So what I like to do is, and a lot of people like to do, is play the 3rd and the 6th instead. Then you can add fourths to the. So sometimes I sacrifice the rule in order to kind of play something that sounds good. So what is the point of this, and why is this a good thing to be able to do? Different reasons. First of all, let's say you are on a gig and there's no piano player, you can play the chords and the melody at the same time. It's fantastic. Gives you a different sound too, because it's kind of lame if you're only playing the melody when you have the, you know, guitar is one of the few instruments that actually can play chords. But it's very hard to play actual big voicings and the melody at the same time. So this is kind of a poor man's chord melody, right? We can't be Bill Evans, but we can kind of sound like almost Bill Evans. Another thing is, well, you can get rid of the piano player, so that's more money for you, right? And then soloing, it's a good idea to throw in chords in your solo. I hear the older players back in the day, they did that all the time, but then I guess because of distortion, there was this wave of guitar players in the 80s who played with distortion. Doesn't make sense to throw in chords when you have a distorted tone, right? But then now I hear all these players, Kurt Rosenwinkel and that kind of player, they throw in little chords in their soloing. It gives you you can take breaks in your phrases, so you don't have to play lines constantly, right? So you play something and then throw in. Right? Kind of like piano players do. They do that all the time, so we can do that too by using this technique. So for those people who complain about my videos that I'm only talking about scales and running licks up and down and arpeggios and bob scales and what have you, here's a completely different approach. Especially at the end there, bar 25, we have all these chords. B split to B flat minor 7 to A minor to A flat minor 7 to D flat, G minor, C. And I've talked about that as well, the chromatic 2/5, right? It's easy to get caught up in that. It's like as if you have to play every chord change. You don't. You know, this kind of approach gives you a different approach. I can just play the F, for example. You don't have to play every chord change, but if you approach it like this, well, it just gives you a different feel. If you try it, I think you'll see what I mean. Also, it's good for solo guitar gigs, you know. If you do this, it sounds like you're playing chord melody, right? Which you are, kind of. And some people say, well, there's no root, there's no bass note. Well, it doesn't have to be. You can still hear the changes, I think. So for the melody and also for your soloing, it's two different things to work on. So maybe I should just play the whole thing in its entirety, and so that you hear what it sounds like, and then I'll just try to improvise very simple idea, rhythmic little things, and throw in these guide tone voicings or whatever you want to call them, and you shall hear, hopefully you'll get some ideas of how you can work on this. And yeah, the PDFs are on my Patreon page. I shall see you next time.